then we will open for Q&As. Okay, guys? Are you ready? Okay. Let us start with our first presenter here. We will have Dr. Ratnaria Wahid from University Utara Malaysia. The title of her presentation will be From Both Sides of the Coin, Virtual Education in Liberating Knowledge Towards Future Liberation of Islamic Jerusalem. Please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ratnaria Wahid, and I did this paper together with Dr. Subhan and Dr. Makdis, which is also from University of Malaysia. This is basically based on my research sponsored by the Malaysian government, which is particularly on MOOCs and its importance and its relevance to Islamic Jerusalem as well. The title of my paper is From Both Sides of the Coin, Virtual Education in Liberating Knowledge. So my area of research is basically on intellectual property, but I will focus my presentation on virtual education and its role of liberating knowledge. I will just give a brief outline of what I'm going to touch in my presentation. Basically, I'll just give some introduction, what is virtual learning in the modern world that we have today, the importance of Jerusalem in this research, and also to the Muslim as a whole. Jerusalem at the heart of Israel-Palestinian conflict, Islam and its emphasis on knowledge. I will go further on the great Islamic civilization and also the great Islamic conquest and what is the way forward for us, and a bit of a conclusion. Okay, basically as an introduction, as we know now, universities or higher education institutions are actually using a lot of technology in our teaching and learning, right? So educational institutions actually utilize technology to disseminate knowledge. We can get information very quickly, very easily, and very speedily, and sometimes free from cost. So university or higher education institutions, especially in a developed country, has been using technology to disseminate knowledge. This is also happening in other parts of the world, also in developing countries, also in Malaysia and other places. As respects to virtual learning actually refers to a lot of things. Some call it e-learning, some call it online learning. It has a lot of terms, but basically it refers to education which is primarily delivered over the internet, meaning that you can read or get information or get knowledge just from the internet. And internet you can also access not only from the computer, but you can also access from your Android or iPhone or anything. So it is very easy to get education. How it is made is because these tools actually incorporate text. You can read the text or documents, and you get the sound, you get images, and various other tools to attract students' attention. So basically, higher education institutions not only disseminate knowledge, but they use all this to attract the attention of the people. So why do we use the technology? It is basically because it is very in cost. It is to reduce the cost. It is to increase the productivity, and also to enable future expansion of our students. Sometimes, if we just lecture in class like this, I can only deliver my message to only like 50 of you. But if I use the internet, if I use my deliver my messages in the internet, I can reach even those who are in the US, in the UK, in Malaysia, and also in Palestine as well, if they have the internet connection, of course. Okay, now basically I will introduce you to MOOCs. I'm not sure whether all of you have seen this before, but this is actually a very new development in our education system. By MOOCs, it means massive. Okay, MOOCs refers to massive. We can reach a lot of students. By massive, I don't say it's just 100, not 200, but thousands of students out there we can reach by using these MOOCs. And it is open. Open meaning that the content is online. So it is open for everybody to access the content. Online, we need to have an internet connection. We have to use it online. Without internet connection, this is actually not possible. And this is courses. MOOCs also refers to any courses or syllabus that are made by the lecturers or any institutions, and any students from all around the world can enroll in this MOOC program. So it is open registration. Everybody can join. And it is self-paced. If you like this, maybe you like to learn about public speaking, how to communicate in front of the audience. So you just go to the internet and find courses on MOOCs, which refers to public speaking, for example. Then you can learn from them. Or, for example, you like to know something about okay, sorry for the break. But it is self-paced, meaning that when you want to learn certain courses, for example, you don't need to be here. At 2:15, you have a presentation or you have to listen to a lecture. You don't have to do that. You can listen to my lecture, maybe if I put it on MOOCs. It is self-paced. You can listen at 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. or when you are playing with your kids. So it is very self-paced. And the role of instructor is minimum. It is more towards the students who have to do a lot of thinking and digesting the information. And it is real-time interaction. Normally in MOOCs, although you do not get to see the lecturer physically, it is online, but you get to email them and chat with them using the web tools. And normally this is free of charge. You don't have to pay for the tuition or etc. Unless there are some other things that you need to use, then you have to pay. And it is open content, like I said before. It is open to everybody who are interested. Okay, how does these MOOCs relate to importance of Islamic Jerusalem? According to Al-Isra, Ayat 1, glorified be he who carried his blessed servant in the span of a night from the sacred mosque to the Aqsa mosque, whose surroundings we have blessed, so that we may show our servant signs of our glory. Verily, he is all hearing, all seeing. So although we are maybe really in awe about the technology that we have today, but we have to go back to our tradition and remember that Allah has already sent Prophet Muhammad SAW from Mecca to Beytül Makdis, also to heaven and beyond, even in one night. Although we said, hey, this is very special, I can click and then send my messages to the rest of the world, but actually in Islam this has been happening a long time ago with Prophet Muhammad SAW during the Isra Mi'raj. And this actually emphasizes the importance of Jerusalem to us as Muslims, when it is established as the first Qibla for all the Muslims. And it also relates Jerusalem to Mecca, which is also a very important thing in the life of the Muslim. Okay. However, unfortunately, Jerusalem now is at the heart of Israel-Palestinian conflict. The expansion has been going on since 1967, and there are a lot of grave violations of human rights principles. We can see a lot of the aggressions through the media, and it does not care whether it's a man, it's a woman, children, or old folks. So it is very unfortunate for us to have Jerusalem in this kind of situation nowadays. But why does this happen? Why is it has been prolonging so long time ago and we couldn't even settle it? So if we look at the chart, we are actually more than Christian based on the population of the world. So Christian is 28% and Muslim is 29%. This is based on remember. It's in my paper, the references. So actually, we are a lot in terms of quantity, but in terms of trying to stop this grave violations of human rights, we are unable to do so. And why does this happen? I believe that this is because the lack of knowledge that we have today. Although a Muslim country is actually good and developing, however, they lack a proper infrastructure and needs for education. Research has shown that Muslims country lack proper needs and infrastructures. Maybe they don't have enough quality education for the students, they do not have proper infrastructure, some even doesn't go to school. So this is the problem that we have with Muslims today. But this is totally against what Islam has taught us. Islam has emphasized knowledge direct from the first verse that they actually deliver to us, Iqra. They ask us to read, recite, and understand the ilm or the knowledge. So it is actually a duty of a Muslim to acquire knowledge. It is a duty. And even Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he always prayed that, oh Allah, grant him knowledge, right? So it is actually a challenge, not just to have knowledge, but it is a challenge to get a good knowledge as well. If we look at the history, we are very respected in terms of architecture, design, infrastructure, mathematical concepts, celestial globe, physicians, geographers. All of this actually come from Muslim civilizations and Muslim history. And it was actually, when people copy what we have, it is a term of, it is like we are actually respected and recognized. But this does not happen today, unfortunately. And also in terms of the great Islamic conquest, we can see our Muslims warriors, Muslims armies are very well equipped in their cavalry, ample resources, strategic thinking, creative thinking. I went to see the historical site that you have in Turkey today, and I was really impressed on how brave, how faithful, and how knowledgeable they are in terms of trying to conquer the city at that time. So it is actually based on the knowledge that they have. And how do we utilize knowledge? How does the people previously have utilized and use the knowledge? They actually preserve the knowledge in the conquered territory. They don't do away, they use it for their own benefit. And they use the knowledge of diplomacy, international relations to forge a peaceful coexistence with other countries. So you see that there's a zebra and a lion, but they can still live together peacefully. So this is what Muslims have also need to do today, how to develop a peaceful coexistence with other races and other religions. And they use knowledge and wisdom to capture the mind and heart of the people. We cannot just use aggression, but we also have to use the knowledge and to capture the heart of the people. And the way forward, it is also important for all of us to acquire knowledge and information. But when I refer back to the MOOCs that I said today, MOOCs is actually open. The free course is open, but basically it is more dominated by the Western. We can use it. There is a concern that MOOCs is another form of neo-colonialism. MOOCs is actually originated from the USA. They built MOOCs and they open it to everybody in the world to learn. And this is, they will bring their own ideas, their own content, the Western influence, Western disruptors. And this will reflect Western mainstream trends, methodologies, assumptions, and so on. So, it is important that we are not really attracted to MOOCs, but on the other hand, we have to also remember what are our real Islamic teaching. And the way forward here is the technology offers potential for Muslims. I believe that MOOCs is a very good potential for us, the lecturers here, and lecturers from other Islamic countries, to give their lecture or syllabus to other people who do not benefit the information. Oops, sorry. But then we have to creatively blend the modern language with Islamic teaching, and we put it online so that many people out there can learn. And there should be a strategic thinking on how to attract the students towards your courses, so that they will go to your courses and learn Islam and try to develop more Muslims. And it is also a need for collaborative effort among fellow Muslims to make this work. And as a conclusion, it is the role of knowledge is totally important, and history have shown that Muslims has been very active in participating in the transmission of knowledge, meaning that they transmit knowledge, they don't just keep it within themselves, but they try to distribute it among the other fellow Muslims. And we need to recapture the glory of historic achievement by utilizing technology towards intellectual advancement that could help liberate Islamic Jerusalem. That's all. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ratnaria, for a very interesting presentation on how to liberate Islamic Jerusalem, to relate with all the technologies here and there, and to disseminate knowledge, inshallah. So, guys, you may prepare your questions for the Q&A session. And we will have, the next will be Dr. Rashida Mamad. She will present her topic on knowledge-based boycott initiative as mass support towards Save Gaza in Islamic Jerusalem campaign and analysis on Malaysians' involvement. Please, Dr. Rashida.
Okay, thank you very much to Dr. Amin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullah, and very good afternoon to all. And I will continue with my title of this paper because we just give 50 minutes to present. My title, Knowledge-Based Boycott Initiatives as Mass Support Towards Safe Gaza and Islamic Jerusalem Campaign and Analysis on Malaysians' Involvement. It's about, the discussion is about how far, to what extent Malaysia involved in Palestine and Islamic Jerusalem issues. Who's involved and what kind of strategy, and that's all I will discuss one by one here. Let's go to the introduction. Okay, the Israeli occupation of Islamic Jerusalem territory is seen as one of the long-standing issues. But what I want to discuss is it's not about religion per se, but it's about human rights violence, human rights abuse. That's why the boycott is important for all, as a Muslim especially, even though it's happened for the worldwide. But what we were going to focus is about Muslims and also the Malaysia involvement. Okay. Boycott is seen as one way to express opposition to oppression, injustice, and violence of Zionist regime through solidarity action for the Palestinian people. We have three objectives here: to understand the phenomenon of knowledge-based boycott initiatives driven by Save Gaza and Islamic Jerusalem campaign in Malaysia. Even though we know it's a worldwide campaign, but we focus on Malaysia to examine the boycott campaign from three groups of boycott agents: the government, the Malaysian government, the non-governmental organizations or NGOs, and individuals, to develop insight regarding boycott strategies and the impact of the boycott actions. This is the model or the framework how this paper will discuss all these boycott agents, boycott strategies, and the impacts of the boycott itself. All right. What is boycott initiative or knowledge-based boycott? It means detach or isolation, or either refuse to deal with a person, organization, and so on to express disagreement, or forcing individuals or institutions to accept certain conditions. For example, boycott stores that sell items at a great price, boycott goods produced by foreign state. In this case, we will talk about Israel products and US products. We want to boycott their products. Okay, it's about consumer activism and it's voluntary and non-violent march. This is the way implicitly we want to protest, not by war, not by using gun, but we try our best to protest. Okay, consumer boycott, according to Friedman, as an attempt by one or more parties to achieve certain objectives by urging individual consumer to refrain from making selected purchase in the marketplace. And based on this paper, the knowledge-based boycott initiatives aim to educate the mass on the importance of their involvement in the boycott campaign against Israel military offenses in Gaza and Islamic Jerusalem. Okay, to generate awareness, to create awareness to the mass people how important the issues of Palestine and Islamic Jerusalem. Okay. Little bit about the history of boycotting Israeli products. It began in 1940s when the Arab League introduced a boycott committee, boycott declaration, which says that Jewish products were unwanted in Arab countries. Okay, and since 1948 campaign, boycott has been utilized as a method of economic weakening of Israel. The focus is we try to weakening of Israel economic system. Okay. Some fatwa about boycotting Israel products. Let's say from Dr. Yusuf Al-Qaradawi say, Muslims are commanded to fight the enemies of the religion and state with all its strength, whether with authority, orally, hard, and also through the boycott. Anything that can weaken the enemy and subjugate them must be implemented. And also Sheikh Salim Lahidan said, the boycott of American, Britain, and Australian goods is a part of jihad. This is a part of jihad as a Muslim. Okay. Even in Malaysia, we don't have clear fatwa about this boycott, but we still refer to these big scholars as is it part of our religious duty. The role of boycott agents. As I said, I'm going to discuss about 3 agents here: the government, the Malaysian government, the NGOs, and also individual. Let's see about the Malaysian government roles. Okay. Malaysia has been the forefront of championing the Palestinian issues, particularly on the issues of Gaza and Islamic Jerusalem. And since 1974, we can see so many contribution of Malaysian in Palestine and Islamic Jerusalem. For example, setting up the PLO office in Kuala Lumpur in 1974, and then making the issues of Palestine as the main headlines in most of the United Nations Assembly, OIC summits, and other international human rights conferences. And then regarding the boycott initiative, we can see that Malaysian government has to put extra considerations since we involved with mainly United States government. We have some relationship in economy especially. So since 1960, Malaysia has begun accepting US investment in semiconductors, and we cannot afford to boycott goods from United States because it will have to deal with USA Anti-Boycott Act, and the direct implication of that will result in withdrawal of foreign investment from Malaysia. We quite concerned about that. We cannot directly boycott everything from US because we have some relationship with the economy and also investment. And then for our current Prime Minister, Datuk Sri Najib said that it was up to individual whether or not to boycott the USA products. He take this stand since this boycott is quite complex and it would involve local businessmen doing franchise business of product and companies from USA. However, Malaysian government take proactive strategy boycott by not disclose attitude and stands openly not to be perceived as provocative and aggressive. So we take other way, not really show that we are so aggressive that we boycotting that US product. In another way, we implement campaign to choose halal and good quality products, means to choose local products. Okay. The second part, the non-governmental organization roles. Here, I choose 4 NGOs like Aman Palestine Berhad, Aqsa Sharif, Mercy Malaysia, and Islamic IRM. Okay, this Aman Palestine. I think some of you have heard about these NGOs before. Okay, they had 3 basic principles like Ukhuwah, sanctity of the Aqsa Mosque, and also the promotion of humanitarian values. Okay, and the second one, Aqsa Sharif, very active NGOs, especially in Gaza. For example, they built bread factory project, financial assistance for the poor family in Palestinian orphans, and cancer patient project in the Rentisi hospital. And then this is what they did for the boycott initiative, like the campaign that organized by Aqsa Sharif, mostly focused on the 4 big companies. This is not blind boycott actually. They have target. They target 4 big companies like McDonald's, Nestle, L'Oreal, and Coca-Cola, which is believed have link with the Zionist regime gaining control on Palestine and Islamic Jerusalem territories. This is what they thought about the boycott initiative. Boycotting is actually a war strategy. The modern day war is no longer just about weapons. Our war with the Zionists is a total war, includes factors like economy, politics, social culture, and education. So we struggle on this. We try to put effort to show our protest by boycotting, the US and Israel products. Okay, this is the third one, Mercy Malaysia, especially they focus on medical relief, and then Islamic Relief Malaysia, also about humanitarian aid, and we'll see about individual roles. Many Malaysians quite aggressive in support this boycott campaign. For example, a Malaysian cyclist Azizul Hasni Awang, okay, who compete in Commonwealth Games, choose to wear gloves written "Save Gaza," even though he knows the consequences by using this kind of campaign. But still, he proved how brave he was to contribute. Okay, and this one about boycott implementation strategies. It's about awareness. Okay, the knowledge-based boycott initiative seeks to raise awareness about Israel apartheid policies towards the Palestinians and to build support for the Save Gaza and Islamic Jerusalem campaign. And for example, they organized rally, about 10,000 people under the banner of Save Gaza in Kuala Lumpur, Selangor as well. And then these examples for other contributions, like care ceremonies to Save Al-Aqsa Awareness Day program, and so forth. And then just show one picture about the boycott initiative in Malaysia. We boycott McDonald's, and it still happened till today. We continue boycott McDonald's, but some people are still going. It's normal. Okay. And then the second strategy is about media. We choose the latest media like social media, YouTube, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, everything here, including traditional means of communication like poster, banner, t-shirt, hats, and catchy slogans. And also about targeting. As I said before, we target, it's not a blind boycott, we target that the multinational company that relate to the Israel and also US. The impact, this is the last part, the impacts of knowledge-based boycott initiative. One, the response to the boycott calls. The boycott initiative have given some significant impact on Malaysian consumers' motivation and intention to boycott Israel and US products. Majority Muslims perceive the boycott action as religious boycott and part of moral obligation and religious duty. Okay, and we can see that the more religious person they are, the more they committed on this boycott campaign. Okay, the second one impacts on Israel and Zionist economy, even though it's not to the extent that will make the Israel's economy collapse, but some of them, like the business, the fast food business, they close the business. Okay, global campaigns by BDS, especially a few banks and industry in Europe, such as Danske Bank, Nordea Bank, withdrew their investment from Israel. Okay, another example here. In Malaysia itself, as I said, McDonald's, we refrain ourselves from McDonald's fast food, and some have very few customers. And then the third one, emphasizing Malaysian solidarity with Gaza and Islamic Jerusalem. It's about our solidarity, our unity, our support to Palestinian and Islamic Jerusalem. So by boycott means we are brotherhood, we are one ummah. Okay. The knowledge-based boycott initiative emphasized Malaysian solidarity with Palestinian people and support the liberation of Gaza. Alright, conclusion. Knowledge-based boycott initiative driven from Save Gaza and Islamic Jerusalem campaign attempts to advocate mass public awareness towards Islamic Jerusalem issues. Malaysians directly and indirectly express their displeasure to Israel operation of Palestinians by hurting the economic interests of the Israel and United States by boycotting their products. Even though this boycott initiative will not lead to the complete collapse of the Israeli economy, however, it significantly motivates and encourages the mass to give the support and solidarity towards the Islamic Jerusalem liberation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rashida, for her presentation. Again, contemporary issues with regard to boycotts against Israeli products or Israeli-related products. So we will have another presentation from Mr. Musa Hatim Koko. His title of presentation will be Enhancing Knowledge on FDI, of Foreign Direct Investment, within occupied Islamic Jerusalem, prerequisite towards its future liberation. Please, Mr. Musa.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The chair of the conference and Muassas Islamic Jerusalem Studies, Professor Abdul Fattah Al-Awaisi, the chairman of session, distinguished participants, good afternoon. This paper, we tried to develop a relationship so that we move away from the usual historical, anthropological, archaeological conceptions that fits into the early studies of Islamic Jerusalem as a concept and as an entity. That is why we thank God this session as it appears. We have moved from that historical anthropological conceptions. So we move to the future economics of Islamic Jerusalem as we hope and dreamed for it. Knowledge as it is, from yesterday you have heard the basis and the foundation for the emphasis on Islamic knowledge to the Ummah and humanity as a whole. And then business as it is equally a lawful, legal, most important component of human dignity. For that purpose, we feel Islamic Jerusalem, as we dream of it, will have to start planning better for how best its economy can work to sustain the livelihoods of its people. In this regard, we are familiar with the historical antecedents of Beytül Makdis as it appears within the Abrahamic religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Within the Judaism religion, we are familiar that Beytül Makdis is believed to have been the place where Moses alayhi salam received the commandments. In Christianity, Beytül Makdis is equally the place where Jesus is believed to have risen from the dead. In Islam, we have three fundamental perspectives and importance for which we see Islamic Jerusalem. First, as an important Islamic Qibla. Two, it equally is the place for the journey of the night and the ascension of our Holy Prophet ﷺ. And the most fundamental importance of all is the conquest in 637 AD by Umar bin Khattab and the forces at that time. So within these perspectives, we form a basis for which Islamic Jerusalem is an important entity to our religious existence. Now, equally important is the place of Beytül Makdis when it comes to historical, commercial history. We equally feel within the modern business world and politics, Islamic Jerusalem is important to look at. The central theme in this context is first to look at how the liberation struggle for the emancipation of Islamic Jerusalem and its realization, will bring about the identity and the cherished status of world Muslims as a whole. So it's not only for the people of Palestine, it is only for the entire Muslim Ummah. So within this new Islamic Jerusalem, as we see it, we want to have a safe and secure investment for any person coming from one country into Islamic Jerusalem as it appears. So here, a business entity that moved from its main parent country to another new country called a host country is regarded as a multinational because they have operations in more than one country of origin. So in this context, when they consider where to operate this multinational, they consider location decisions as part of which knowledge is a major factor. Now, what makes knowledge as a major factor when it comes to foreign capital attraction is because we believe technology, methods of operations, new products are to be moved from home country to a new country. So in doing so, it is expected that those that are met may not possess the major required knowledge envisaged, but those that are coming will come with a superior knowledge level enough to counter the basis of the host or domestic economy. So we try to offer a position where we feel enhanced knowledge can help future liberation struggle so that Islamic Jerusalem is realized in the context of how much foreign direct investment comes into it. So there are many host country advantages. Security is one, political stability is another, knowledge requirements are other factors. But the most important thing for which our concern in this paper is the issue of knowledge-based requirement for which an enhanced foreign direct investment can be attracted. So two basic questions were asked. First, do multinationals, enterprises get attracted by knowledge advantage host country? If the answer is yes, then how can the future Islamic Jerusalem offer this? We want to see a new emerging economy that can absorb any form of technology transfer or knowledge tacitness or knowledge transfer as affairs, so that it provides job opportunities for people, so that each of the people existing within the confined, cold Islamic Jerusalem can live with dignity and hope and aspirations. Methodology and objective of this paper. The major aim is to articulate Islamic Jerusalem and the future of its economics in terms of domestic economic planning. What we intend to do is, how can domestic economic planning system focus into improved knowledge potentials for any will-be investor to consider and come to Islamic Jerusalem. Here, we use data from the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics, one on the literacy rates ranging from 15 years and above between the period 2000-2013, and we equally considered the rate of employment on one hand and the rate of unemployment on the other between same period. Here we take account of the economic sector like mining, services, construction, and other miscellaneous activities. We equally consider region that comprise of our envisaged Islamic Jerusalem, West Bank, Gaza, and the rest of them, the Palestine itself. So we now consider also economic activity and the sex between male employment, female employment, male unemployment, and female unemployment. Now the most important factor here is to see within the period under consideration how many foreign international investment come into Palestine as it is. And equally, what will be the future focus of economic indices that will attract a foreign investor into such particular area. The last but not the least, we try to bring an assessment in terms of graduate turnover. Here, the number of universities and polytechnics that exist within the Islamic Jerusalem of today, how much number of graduates does it produce in terms of those who hold diploma and those who hold a bachelor's degree. So educational attainment, employment and unemployment, level of literacy rate are all functions of gross domestic product. Literature and facts. We are familiar that foreign direct investment consists mainly of the core principles or knowledge of the firm to be moved from one country to another. Usually, a foreign investor will carry his new technology, new methods of production into a host country, thinking that they are superior enough to counter whosoever he is meeting in terms of competition, profitability, and effectiveness. Literature equally is unanimous on the quality of workforce or significant level of literacy as a factor to a host. Now, each time we want to consider where to locate a foreign investment, literature is comfortable with the level and degree of literacy found in that particular country. Literature equally emphasizes strong positive relationship between employment, knowledge, and investment. So here, it is believed, if there are wider, greater investment opportunities, certainly employment will come. But if this are to be achieved, the knowledge requirement is also an important factor of consideration. So the three fundamental factors are interactive, interrelated, and equally interwoven. Now this paper classifies manpower into technical and professional. We try to identify two basic factors of consideration when it comes to manpower requirement under consideration. First, the technical manpower. The technical manpower consists of the artisans, craftsmen, technicians, and technologists. The professional manpower consists of those degree of people who are professional in contextual terms. They possess bachelor's degree, they conduct supervision, they manage and conduct policy implementation within the multinational firms. So the facts we have at hand is that the literacy level between the ages of 15 to 45 and above shows nearly 89% average for all the three. Then the level of unemployment rate up to 2013 stood at 23.4%. But here, we must acknowledge the fact that since 2006, there has not been people crossing over to work. So that tells you the level of unemployment is high between that period because of blockade within the particular enclave of Gaza. Now the second consideration is the level of gross domestic product, which has increased in 2013 to up to 6.9%. The level of foreign direct investment equally increases at the point. Equally important is the number of employed people in that same particular enclave. Now the economic forecast for the 2015 shows the gross domestic product, gross investment, trade balances, gross exports and imports are expected to grow. How can they grow if the investment in itself, either in the context of small and medium enterprises or from the foreign investment, is low? Here it shows there is a trade balance which is negative, showing low productive economy, which means the entire economy at present is dependent on imports. Equally important is the level of education attainment and the graduate turnover from the 12 universities and dual mode for university that exists within the enclave today. So there are at average a turnover of 28,000 students per annum, which means if we take 12, so at least 2,000 students were turned out for a particular period, which is not enough. So you can observe the linkages here to say we need to have more access, more capacity to be able to produce more graduates that will fit into the working population of that particular economy. Now, this paper recommends the following policy measures. First and foremost, we observe that the level of knowledge or literacy level within that particular economy is low. There is much between those who finish secondary schools and below, but there is less for those who hold diploma and bachelor's degree, which means in the context of analysis, there is a knowledge gap. Now this knowledge gap requires you to now either reskill. There are many diplomates or graduates who doesn't have working skill. Those that have the working skill is not enough to meet multinational requirements, so there is need for what we call upskilling. And those who are graduates now that require a degree of some form of training or development may equally be boosted. Now there is need to have an absorptive capacity within the universities and technical colleges in the occupied territory in terms of expansion and improvement in education infrastructure in these institutions. Here, when we want to expand, it is assumed there is need for funding. Equally important in the policy implication is the major source of funding. The major source of funding for the Palestinian economy as at now come from the working families outside Palestine, foreign aids, and grants that come into the country. But for us to survive and to be able to expand access and increase educational institutions' capacity, there is need for implementation of what we call education tax fund. This paper recommends education tax fund to at least 1% of all registered companies' profits in a particular period of time. This will help develop the capacity, equip institutions and universities, and also fund training and further development of staff and students as well. Equally important is the degree of employable skills in both diploma and bachelor's holders. This paper found from this simple analysis that there is lack of employable skills in between these two forms of graduates. That means there is need between linkage of industrial needs and that of what university and polytechnic teaches. So the curriculum content must come in constant touch with the reality of work situation. Here we mean to say, anytime you have a curriculum to teach a particular form of skill, then you need to involve industry in the development of that curriculum, you need to involve government in the development of that curriculum, you need to involve the stakeholders, that is the university teachers, and there's other major stakeholders in the preparation of such graduates for future work challenges. Here we recommend where curriculum review and development is in existence for a new curricula or emerging one to be in. And then in conclusion, please, we are trying to offer a policy measure in terms of small and medium scale enterprises because we want to boost employment as a function of GDP. So we can only do that if there are more business opportunities or business investments. So to be able to achieve that, the Palestinian National Authority must develop, promote and regulate policy measures with respect to small and medium scale enterprises. We equally recommend student exchange programs that can fast track manpower planning. Here, in the recent recognition by the UNESCO and other major United Nations members, we hope the Palestinian Authority will liaise with such nations instead of giving them aid, which they can just bastardize in a way. Let major number of Palestinian nationals be trained in their countries in emerging, challenging, engineering, science, and technology-based areas or disciplines. Finally, the Palestinian National Authority should establish, equip, or expand technical colleges because there are less number of technical, artisan, craftsmen, and technologists within the working population, which means there is only a dual mode institution existing where it is a university and as well a technical institution. So there is need for more to absorb the teeming youths that are there with less secondary school qualification or less than that, and they need skills to work. And for them to have such skills, they require a requisite training in technical and scientific technology. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Mr. Musa Hatim Koko, for his presentation this time. Touch the economic things, and he's an expert on international business. So hopefully we can get benefits from his presentation, inshallah. So without further ado, I will open this to the floor for any questions or any opinions regarding all the presentations that we have this session. Please.
I have a question about the World Cup initiative in Malaysia. Thank you. I enjoyed the 3 papers, mashallah, la quwwata illa billah. What I have, with my knowledge of Malaysia regarding the boycott, which is a very important tool. It happened against South Africa apartheid, and it worked. And even with the fatwa, I wish we have some fatwa from ulama from Malaysia. Yes, Mr. Qaradawi is an important figure. The other sheikh from Saudi Arabia are important figure, but I think finding support. But my question is, why in Malaysia, and I claim I understand Malaysia, why Malaysia focusing more in Gaza? Yani, Aqsa Sharif, which is related to the Aqsa, but mainly their activities is related to Gaza. Aman, Palestine, their main focus is in Gaza. Aman, Palestine, they have an office in Gaza, but they don't have an office in Beytül, Makdis, for example. Aqsa Sharif, which is from the word Aqsa, they have their initiative in Gaza. So, is there any explanation why the focus for the boycott is related to Gaza more than to Beytül Maqdis and Islamic Jerusalem? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will combine collect all the questions, please. Concise and precise so that we can allow more questions.
Assalamu alaikum. I would like to thank you all for this information, new things. I would like to ask Mr. Rashida about the yes, Dr. Sorin. I would like to thank you very much, first of all, as a Palestinian and as a Muslim too. I found new informations about the boycott, about production L'Oreal. It's new things for me. I use L'Oreal very much for products. And as a Muslim, I forbidden to buy these things. Now I knew this, but I don't like the alternative to have new good idea, things and products in our world. What shall I do? Thank you.
Buy Turkish product. Okay, next question, please. Anybody? Yeah, sir. Yes.
Türkçe soracağım. Bütün hocalarıma öncelikle teşekkür ederim. Her hocamı en son ana konu benim için bilgi eksikliği geliyor. Küçük bir araştırma yaptım.
To whom? The question? No, to whom?
Soru kime? Raşit hocamız ve diğer hocalarımızın hepsine de ilk sizin biraz
Raşit hocamıza ve the question for...
Tamam. Ben aslında bütün hocalarımıza, adını size sormak istiyorum Raşit hocamıza. Bütün hocalarımızın kendi alanlarında söylediği bir şey bilgi eksikliği. Müslüman toplumun bilgi eksikliği oluyor. Araştırmalarımızda oryantalistlerin Müslüman toplumlar üzerindeki... Oryantalistlerin bizlere empoze ettiği Müslümanlar cahil, Müslüman toplumda bilgi yetersizliği var, bilgi eksikliğini hep kendi kendimize bir şeylik var. Hani empoze edilmişliğin kabullenmişliği var.
Orientalists created an ideology that Muslims don't have the ability to learn.
Bu konuşmalardan sonra biraz daha ben hani oryantalistlerin etkisinin altında, yani ondan çıktığımızda da bizim kendi suçumuz olduğumuzu düşünmeye başladım. Biz gerçekten bir...
Sorry. That speech I learned that we can manage. I mean, we can go through this and we can learn by ourselves. We have an ability to do this.
Raşit hocam kendi konuşmasında iki şey söylemişti. İslami liderlerin davranışı ve insanların bilgi seviyesini yükseltmek demişti. Ben bunları akademik değil de sokaktaki insan diliyle sormak istiyorum. Bizim Müslüman liderlerimiz gerçekten Müslüman mı? Ve bilgileri İslami çerçevede ne kadar? İkincisi de sokak yani...
Do you think our leaders, Islamic leaders, are really Muslim?
Sorry. İkinci sorumda insanların bilgi seviyesini yükseltmek denirken zaten olmayan bir şey intibası uyandı bende. Bu olmayan bir şeyi nasıl yükselteceğiz? Sokaktaki insan adına soruyorum bunu. Akademisyen olarak değil.
How can you say that if there is no knowledge in normal citizens? How can you improve this knowledge if there is no any knowledge?
Okay, thank you very much. I will allow another 2 questions. Anybody at the back? No? Yes, please. In Turkish as well, yeah? Okay, please. Any microphone to help?
Öncelikle hepinize ayrı ayrı teşekkür ediyorum. Günümüzde hep en tehlikeli olan bu şeylere değindiğiniz için. İsmim Şehedani. Benim sorum Yahudileri boykot etme konusunda olacak. Yani Siyonistleri her şekilde boykot etmemiz gerekiyor. Yalnız bu Siyonistlere karşıt olan birçok Yahudi cemaatleri var ve bunlara mali yönden, eğitim yönden her şekilde karşı duruyorlar. Bunların ürünlerini alma konusundaki düşüncelerinizi merak ediyorum ben.
He says, okay, we support the idea of boycotting all the Israeli products, but there's another issue that some of the Jewish organization doesn't support Zionism. What do you think about the products of this organization? We should buy from them, or we should apply the same boycott system to them as well?
Yeah, last question.
Yine boykot hakkında bir sorum olacak. Özellikle Malezya'nın kendi ilkesi nedir? Bunu merak ediyorum boykot için. Yani sadece Amerika...
What's the main principle of the what's the main principle of the Malaysia towards this boycott policy?
Yani sadece Amerika ve İsrail ürünü müdür boykot sebebi? Yoksa zihniyet midir? Çünkü bizim savaşımız ne İsrail'le ne Amerika'yla. Bizim savaşımız bu zihniyetle, Siyonizm zihniyetiyle. Yani eğer Türkiye'nin kısmi olarak bu zihniyete hizmeti varsa Malezya Türkiye'nin bu kısmı zihniyete yani buna olan hizmetini de boykot eder mi? Malezya'nın Türkiye ürünleri ya da Türkiye'nin belli bir kısmı Siyonizme hizmet ediyorsa eğer Malezya Türkiye'de boykot eder mi?
If some Turkish group, for example, serves the Jews policy, do you think Malaysia should protest as well the Turkish products?
Okay. You get it, Rashida, right? Okay. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for all the questions raised. And I will allow Mr. Musa, Dr. Ratna, to reflect on the issues of education and all the boycott issues to Dr. Rashida. So, you want to start first? Okay, please.
Thank you very much for all the questions. Looks like everybody interested in this topic. Because it's a worldwide issue, actually. Not just Malaysia participate in this boycott initiative because we care about our ummah, our brothers and sisters in Palestine, and also in Gaza, Islamic Jerusalem. The first question for our beloved professor is about why Gaza, why Malaysia is so focused on Gaza, especially for non-governmental organization, NGOs. Basically, most of them NGOs, they take what we call BDS or boycott, divestment, sanctions, BDS as a reference, yeah, their activities, their strategies, how they do the boycott. So many NGOs refer to them as a guidance. So the basic or the principle of this BDS is to show our protest toward human violence, human rights abuse. That's why it's not more on religious duty. Yes, of course, religious duty, but not on religious purpose per se. But it's about human rights issues, violence, abuse, everything about that. That's why most of the NGOs prefer to go to Gaza about humanitarian aid, yeah, to funding, yeah. All right. Yeah, I answered the question. And the second one is about L'Oreal. This is your first time heard about why we should boycott L'Oreal. In Malaysia, as I said, we target the multinational company like McDonald's, L'Oreal, Nestle, and another one. No, not KFC. Okay, four big companies there. because they put the share, they support a lot, they give funding to Israel, and we not boycott everything, because majority of the companies, especially the small company, involve the local business. Yeah. So I think I can answer the third question: why we should, whether we should boycott all the companies or we should just focus certain companies. As long that companies give support to the Israel and killing people, give money, everything, we should boycott them. If they refrain themselves or they not anymore boycott them, so we can buy the product. As long they give contribution, we should boycott. Once they stop the give contribution, then we can buy, no problem. As a ummah, if we support, if they do the yeah, I think.
It's in principle.
Yeah, that is principle. Yes, definitely.
If they support Israel,
yes,
that's apply to them.
Yes, yeah. If they don't, so we can buy, no problem. Okay. And I answered that question, 2 questions in one answer. What else, buy Israeli products. It's about individual acts. It depends on your principle, your iman, your religiosity, how far your iman, because it is written, it's approved in fatwa itself, like Dr. Kardawi and some religious scholars said. So if we believe on that, it depends on us. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rashida, Mr. Musa, and Dr. Ratna, to comment on the educational issues.
Thank you for that question. I don't know if the questioner is familiar with the conservative religious teachings that met with the resistance and understanding made the major powers that came to colonize most of the Muslim world. For example, I'm a Nigerian. In Nigeria, we have a Dawlat which established caliphate in the 17th century. Now they call it Usmaniya as well. Sokoto Caliphate is there. We have a sultan who in 1804 refuses to meet with the then colonial powers who are trying to invade the Sokoto kingdom. He said there is a saying where it is expected once a white man or a white Christian man come to the caliphate, that is the end of the world. So for him, he will never see a white man. So he left the country and moved and died in Sudan, present-day Sudan. So the conservative teachings are reappearing between 17th and 18th century, are now very visible in the 21st century. Take for example, in the same Nigerian context, we have what we call Boko Haram. The word Boko is derived from the word of English book. Book. So in my local traditional dialect, like the Turkish language, we have a language called Hausa, which is a dominant in northern Nigeria. So they cannot say book, but they now make it Boko. So look at the way it goes, Boko. Now the word haram is usual Arabic term meaning unlawful. So they now coin their teachings as extreme Sunni Muslims. Observe my English very well, please. Extreme Sunni Muslims, and now says Western education is haram. We have the Taliban in Pakistan. You can see how they go into schools, killing small children of 2 years, 4 and 11. We have others over so many other places where you cannot say where they get their teachings. If the major fundamental principle of Islam is knowledge, then I don't see any reason why a Muslim community cannot strive and emphasize such a quest for knowledge. whether Muslim leaders are Muslim. The question is, as good Muslims, we cannot determine a Muslim by face, by his appearance, by his utterances, but by heart. And I and you cannot judge that heart except what Allah can. Now, where we know the good Muslim leaders is when they strive to protect our faith, that is our iman and our religion, and then protect our culture as long as it does not go against the dictates of religion. I also give example with my country. Recently, 2 weeks ago, Nigeria held election, general election. In the last 6 years, Nigerian Muslims suffered because we thought democracy will pay by voting a non-Muslim to become Nigeria's president. Then we ran into trouble. So at the end of the day, we have to come back to our senses. During the last general elections, and we voted a Muslim in as a president. So Muslim leaders keep talking in the mosques during khutbah and sermons, in Friday prayers, and every of their teachings. So it depends on what the leaders can do to emphasize and encourage more search and quest for knowledge. The other question is on the street children. Now, if a leader is not responsible to cater for the well-being of his people, so it means he will not look after small children who are begging on the streets. That is why in my presentation, I encourage the expansion of access. How do you expand access? If the access for schools is low, the more children will be out of schools. But if the access is wide and the capacity in a class of 50 students is expanded to accommodate 100, 200, then more will be brought. The most important option is equally to make school education as compulsory and mandatory for all. If Muslim leaders can now emphasize on it, it will solve the problem. If you make it compulsory and affordable, observe also that context here, where more children on the street must be seen in schools, then after school hours they can go to the streets, no problem. Thank you for your attention, please.
I just want to add just a little bit. Rather than just putting it on the shoulder of the leaders, we should always remember that Allah has said, "Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa." It is on our own shoulders, on our behalf, to make sure that our Muslims, brothers and sisters, are really strong and developed in terms of not only dunya but also in akhirah. So look at us back. What have we done so far in helping other fellow Muslims, in helping the children at the streets, in helping ourselves to be in good way in the akhirah. So look at ourselves and not just other people. So let us together try our best to get ilmu as much as we can and help each other. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you very much to all presenters and to all participants as well for a very good discussion. And I believe that these issues we can discuss further and further, inshallah, by the way, because we still have another session after this. So hopefully, at least our discussion can be triggers for further discussion on the issue of education, the economic issues, the issue of boycotting this and that, and all this will relate to the initiatives and efforts towards the liberation of Islamic Jerusalem. So thank you very much to everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. And we will have 5 minutes break, and please come back for the next session.